Is this working? Okay, good. I want to welcome all my students. I'm glad to see that many of you came. So we're going to get on with our topic. This appears too loud for me, so how can I make it quieter? Maybe you can hear me without using that for a minute, because they did have a lavalier mic which got lost, but I did not have an anger response to that. Because you can't hear me? Okay. I just think that was too much noise. Okay, good. All right, is this better? I'm not used to this kind of thing. All right, they did have a lavalier mic that got misplaced, and that would have been more effective because I could have walked around. But because I've been immersed in the topic of anger, I was able to manage my response very well. Our psychology department does a series of talks, and this one is aimed at a more practical concept, a practical topic. And the topic is anger, and it's certainly an emotion that we all experience. We all experience it frequently. Many of us, a lot of the time, all of us always don't manage it well. And so my hope today is to talk about anger, what it is, how it is only one step away, one letter away from danger. So we'll look at what happens when anger is mismanaged or not effectively managed. And then, of course, we'll close with strategies to help manage anger, to give you better coping skills. And if you can't use these with yourself, you might know someone who can. So that is my intention for today. First of all, anger is a normal, healthy emotion. It is a natural response. Everyone feels anger. It is a normal, natural response to have when one is disappointed, when one is hurt, when one feels one has been violated in some kind of way. Any other uncomfortable feelings that we may have may emerge in the anger response. So I don't want you to walk away thinking, oh, anger, I can't be angry. You can be angry. It's okay to be angry. Anger is a very healthy, normal response. It's a survival mechanism. I think our ancestors did a really good job. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here today. Because anger tells us when something's wrong. And when something's wrong, it energizes us to make changes. So if you think about evolution, our ancestors were doing a lot of fixing on the path, and often anger communicated that to them that something was amiss and something needed to be changed. When we're angry, the emotion of anger, when it's healthy and useful, it communicates to us our values. This is what I believe in. This is what's important to me. This is what, how I want to be in this world. And when those values or beliefs or ways of being in the world are violated in some way, we get angry. So if we know why, it communicates to us that something's wrong. And of course, it energizes us. When we're angry, we're aroused. There's some energy. You got some mojo. You get the juices flowing. And it's going to move you to do something. So it's what you do with it that matters. Now, I want to use the theme of danger because the D is one letter away from anger. The picture of the tiger I chose because in Chinese Buddhism, the tiger metaphorically represents anger. And the story is that a very young schoolboy was whipped violently by his tutor, and the violent whipping led to white stripes on the student's skin. The student was so hurt and humiliated and was left with these white stripes that he ran into the woods and was never seen again. In Chinese Buddhism, that story represents the first untamed tiger, or anger as we know it. So when you think of the tiger as a metaphor for anger, look at those big white teeth. Anger's cutting. Anger hurts. Anger tears things apart. When you think of a tiger, do you think of a growl or a roar? So when you think of anger, are you thinking about yelling, screaming. So the danger part of anger is when it's untamed. And when it's untamed, it can endanger us. So I'm playing a little bit with the D part of danger. Take it away, you've got anger, and anger can be dangerous. So it's normal and healthy, but there is a small danger component to anger. The expression of anger has become a real problem nationwide. You probably all can think of stories that have happened in our recent history. You know, there's air rage, there's road rage, you know, and everything exists on a continuum. So tailgating, speeding by someone, flipping them the bird, you know, or actually aggressively hitting someone, cutting someone off, pushing someone off the highway. People die from acts of road rage. Sports rage, you know, World Cup events. Fans are unhappy about a call. Fans are unhappy about the results of the game. Riots emerge, people die. You know, bullying, a softer form of nationwide rage. There's an author by the name of Jane Middleton Maas. She wrote a book called The Boiling Point, and she really feels that the nationwide anger problem that we appear to be experiencing is really due to the fact that we're not connected. You know, the fact that we have more connections than ever that are not face-to-face. And it's this lack of community, this lack of connection, which really leads to a lack of depth of understanding and empathy, results in the possibility of these rages, which are a very extreme form of anger. Another belief in anger is that all anger is the result of unmet expectations. Expectations set us up for disappointment. So think about it. I've got 3 images there. Traffic jam. Well, one might become angry because their expectation is they're delayed. I'm not going to get to where I'm going as quickly as I need to get there. So you get this arousal and this emergence of angry feelings. Maybe one you can all relate to is, hopefully you can't relate to that one, but you know what it's like being a student. You put your heart and soul into something, you create a product, you get the product back, and it's found to be unsatisfactory. In this case, quite unsatisfactory, a lot of red and the big F. Telling you, you know, your expectation was I did a good job, I did what you wanted me to do. You know, I worked hard on this. I thought I was gonna get a good grade, and I didn't. My expectation wasn't met, and I'm pissed off, I'm angry. The broken heart, relationships. Relationships are very complex, very difficult, and I'm sure if you start thinking about your own life relative to this content, because you're all human and so you're all angry, if you look at relationships, whether they're the intimate love kind or they're, you know, less romantic love and just relationships in general, relationships are a significant source of unmet expectations. You know, when you even look at Kubler-Ross's stages of grief relative to death and dying, or grief relative to loss. The second stage is anger. My expectation was that this wasn't going to happen. I didn't expect to get sick. I didn't expect that I'm going to die. You know, I didn't expect to lose that job, if whatever it is that you're grieving. So anger is a very normal part of the grief process. And that is, you know, if you just take this one sentence, unmet expectations. So one of the survival techniques or strategies down the road we'll talk about is, do we have realistic expectations? Are our expectations appropriate? Are they too high? Are we expecting too much of ourselves or others? When we think of anger, about 15 years ago, Psychology Today had an article called The Hostile Heart. And in the article, The Hostile Heart, they did a survey, situation report, and they found that people had about 15 episodes of anger a day. More recent estimates are possibly 20 to 25 episodes of anger a day. So I look at you and you're like looking like, oh, I'm not angry that often. Well, when you think of anger, you're thinking of the big, aggressive, blow-up kind of situations where you lose your cool, Or I wanted to relabel this, but I couldn't come up with 50, like to go with the 50 shades of gray. I was going with the 50 shades of anger. You know, anger comes in a lot of different forms. There's a lot of different shades of anger. So the anatomy of anger, rage and hostility are big, hot ones, you know, huge. You can recognize that when it happens. You know, maybe you have one of those a month. But, you know, look at impatience, envy, fear is related to anger. Annoyance, that exists on a continuum. Significant annoyance, to minor annoyance, but the collective annoyance can power up to be anger. Bitter, enraged, sore, upset, furious, frustrated, indignation, guilt, prejudice, jealousy. So when we think about anger, you know, you can focus on the big ones, the big catastrophic events, those moments, you know, maybe like, I can't remember being so angry. However, on a daily basis, are we flirting with the edges of anger in these more mild forms of anger? In some cases, rage and hostility certainly not being mild forms. Okay, continuing with the danger theme, physiological responses to anger. When we're angry, we are physiologically aroused. It changes the way our body responds. And in particular, it affects our autonomic nervous system. So I know my students that are here know from chapter 2, peripheral nervous system, sympathetic nervous system, part of the autonomic nervous system. Heart rate increases, blood pressure increases, more cortisol is secreted in the bloodstream. So migraine headaches, ulcers, colitis, arthritis, hypertension are related, and you know correlation is not cause. So being angry does not cause you to have migraine headaches. But if there's a predisposition to migraine headaches, and this is how your body talks to you, anger can actually flare up, contribute to. So there are lots of diseases that are prevalent in our world that are activated by unresolved anger. So this is just to have, the danger part is for you to be alert to the fact that it's a real normal emotion, but you need to learn how to manage it if you want to stay healthy. Constant fatigue. Being angry is hard work. When you're angry, you're constantly aroused. When you're constantly aroused, you're using up your physiological resources. We have a very common complaint in our world today. I'm so tired. I'm always tired. I'm so fatigued, Iron poor blood, some kind of low-grade infection, or are you sitting on a lot of anger that you're trying to manage and it's eating up your energy, your resources? And then the big one I put in boldface or in red, because the big correlation with anger and hostility is heart disease. And there's robust data to suggest that the hostile heart highly correlated with cardiovascular disease. Hypertension, hardening of the arteries, the toxicity of that cortisol, which is a hormone that's secreted in the bloodstream that is related to heart disease. So you just need to keep that in mind as part of the danger package. Again, I want you to remember that anger is a normal response and should be recognized and validated as legitimate. It's important to know and feel all emotions. Feeling an emotion happens inside you. What you do with it is what is important. So it's okay to feel all the emotions, including anger, and not be afraid of the feeling, not to run away from the feeling. What's important is you learn how to manage and mediate. Use that anger as information. What needs to be changed? What's being violated? How can I manage this? And the danger happens when anger is suppressed. And we'll talk later about anger management styles. There are people who are never mad. They're never angry. They sit on it. They suck it up. That's dangerous when you suppress it. And also is, the aggression or violent expression of anger. So some of these images maybe suggest to you that I've suppressed it for a while and I no longer can hold it back and it comes out like a major explosion or storm. Or some people go directly to acts of violence, acts of aggression as a way to manage anger or as a way to use that emotion. You know, certainly domestic violence is a conversation. It's not only limited to male perpetrators. We have people who deal with any kind of provocation with a very aggressive display of anger. Children are angry, babies are angry. So anger affects all people at all stages of life. And given that we're talking about all people at all stages of life, there are gender differences with anger. Women are supposed to be happy, pleasant, not angry, not aggressive, not violent. In fact, women have been socialized to not express anger. Women have been denied the right to express anger. You know, we're told, don't, you know, nice girls shouldn't be mad, you know. Don't say that, that's not nice. And in fact, when women express anger or aggression, and there's a difference between aggression and assertion, but when women are aggressive or angry openly, they're seen as unladylike, it's unfeminine, it's unattractive. And what's curious, if you look at, you know, you pay attention to language, oftentimes when men are behaving badly and they exceed the norm for male expression of anger, we tend to call them pejorative terms that are related to the feminine. We'll say a woman who's angry is the B word. A man who's excessive and violated the cultural norm, we say, oh, he's a son of a B. Or we say he's a bastard. So we even go back to the unladylike, un-okayness of anger in women, but in contrast, and here's a picture of, you can probably see unattractive, unfeminine, perhaps aggressive, mean, the mean girls, relational aggression, which is a type of bullying and it's a type of anger. Men, in contrast, are supposed to be strong, are supposed to be brave, and angry. So a brave, strong, angry man is seen as masculine and powerful. A man who's not strong, who's not brave, who's not angry, might be seen as more weak and effeminate. You know, so women have been denied the right to express anger. Men, unfortunately, there's a downside to this. Anger is the one emotion that is okay for men to express. And as young boys are developing, if you've read the book Raising Cain, which explores the emotional life of boys, in our society, boys and men are discouraged from feeling other emotions, like sad, like hurt, like disappointed. It's okay to be angry, but it's not okay to say, I'm afraid, I'm sad, I'm hurt, I'm disappointed, because somehow that's weak and effeminate. So women need to, I should go back here, I just want to summarize. Women need to be able to find a way to effectively express anger, and men need permission to, they need permission and the education to express other emotions besides anger. It's okay for a man to be hurt or to be sad or to be afraid. I think Columbine, you've got Keybold and Harris here. You know, if you unwrapped the motivations behind Columbine, horrific event, very complex. There's certainly been more of these events in our world, but this one is the one that's kind of the iconic image. If you unwrap the motivations, I bet you would find anger in one of the sources for the motive for the behaviors that led to this event. So case in point, we need to acknowledge all feelings, and anger is not the only feeling that's okay for men. Emotional literacy, we're a literate society. You're literate. You can read, you can write. You have extensive vocabularies that are continually being built. This term is really used to reference one's ability to express oneself in an emotionally healthy way. Developmentally, perhaps, in positive parenting techniques, we say to children, use your words. In fact, I think there's a new movie coming out with Bette Midler and Billy Crystal at Christmas, and that's one of the clips talking about differences and generational differences in parenting. And old school is just tell them what to do, and new school is use your words. Well, emotional literacy is referring to using your words. Do you have the language and vocabulary to identify the wide range of emotions that exist inside of you? As human beings, emotion is like frosting on the cake, and there are so many variances in our feelings. So being able to identify the words to put on those feelings, the bigger your emotional vocabulary, the more insight you have into yourself, the deeper your understanding that you have of yourself, and the more emotionally literate you are. So as you're engaging in increasing academic literacy, cultural literacy, psychology literacy, hopefully you're also developing a reflective practice that would help you think about your thinking and put words on your feelings and develop an emotional category. Because you're not, you're just not mad, you're angry, you're upset, you're hurt, you're disappointed, and there's all these different layers to an emotion. Well, back in the day, the old school thought was, you're angry, you need to cathart. And the word catharsis actually comes from Freud, who felt that, who said that, the genesis of the word catharsis means purification. So the idea is that you needed to purify yourself. So you're feeling anger, you need to purify yourself. That means you need to have an emotional release. So catharsis, in general, just means that you are expressing emotion through laughing, through crying, through yelling. You might even express it through exercise. Go for a long run, go for a long bike ride, go for a half-hour swim. You're going to release some kind of pent-up emotion. But the old school thought with anger was, it's okay to lock yourself in a room and yell and scream. It's okay to go somewhere and throw things. There was even one point where there was a therapeutic intervention. I know I was exposed to it working in K-12 special ed with emotionally impaired kids, where it was okay for kids to express their aggression. We're going to give you foam bats, and we're going to let you hit each other because you're mad, but the foam bats won't leave any scars or won't hurt you, but it was a release, and we thought that was a good thing. New school, not a good thing. There's, again, significant data to suggest that you have to have an appropriate catharsis for anger. And when you just randomly vent the emotion by throwing things, yelling, what you're doing is you're rewarding the emotion. Now, reinforcement increases the likelihood of behavior occurring again. So it's going to make the emotion stronger. It's going to intensify the emotion. The emotion of anger is not going to go away. You might feel better short term, but you're done hitting somebody with a bat, you're done screaming, you're still angry. And now you're even more angry because you just rewarded that. So we want to look at healthy catharsis. You need to release it. When we're talking about staying away from the D, to not take the danger out of anger, not catharting is relating to suppression, and suppression might eventually lead to explosion. So Carol Tavris, who is a social psychologist, wrote a wonderful book called Anger, the Misunderstood Emotion. She's suggesting that there's a way to have a healthy catharsis. And this is purify, but with purpose. Purify with direction. Purify so that you end up feeling better, the other person ends up feeling better, the anger is resolved and put away. So there are steps to do this, or there are certainly suggestions or guidelines for this process. The expression of anger must be cast in the direction of the provocation. Now, from psychology, displacement's a defense mechanism. We take out our anger and aggression on something else that won't hurt us back. We feel good short term, but in the long term, that is not taking care of the anger. So it's extremely important that when you're angry, that you go to the source of the anger. That is, you have a conversation with the person who may have provoked you. If you want to have healthy catharsis and relief from that emotion of anger. Okay, the expression of anger must restore a sense of self-control. For anger to be resolved, there has to be a sense of justice. There has to be a sense of vindication. This is not about revenge. This is about justification. Can you tell your side of the story? Can you be heard? Did you have an opportunity to express yourself? You just have to justify your state, your perspective. You don't want to lose control, you want to gain control. Self-esteem must be reinstated. You must leave the cathartic event feeling either back to how you felt before you were angry, or certainly a little better because you have sought some kind of resolution. Revenge is not an option. The expression of anger must change the behavior of the provoker or provide insight to create personal resolution. Feelings of anger need to be explored. I'm a big advocate of journaling, as some of my students know. Sometimes vent your anger to. But this can't be a friend who's angry also. What you want is an objective other that you can tell your story to. And that objective other is a sounding board. If you tell a friend who's also angry, that you tell them your story, what you do is you just incite anger in each other. So it becomes social contagion, you reinforce it in each other, and before you know it, you both are more angry. So when you are having a healthy catharsis, you want to express it, but you want to change your behavior because you've gotten some insight into what's going on, and hopefully that insight leads you to making some changes in the situation or with the person who may have provoked you. Hopefully it would lead to some kind of deeper understanding. And anger must be expressed in understandable language. So again, emotional literacy. What's your emotional IQ? You know, what is your adjective vocabulary for anger? And what's really important here is you need to use I statements. I am angry. I am upset. I am annoyed. I am aggravated. I am unhappy. So that you are owning what is happening in you. You're stating it, which interestingly does take the edge off the arousal. And it also communicates clearly to the other person what you're feeling. And you can go more deeper. It'll elicit a conversation with the other person would want to know why you're feeling that way. And you can then go deeper and explain, and those explanations can possibly lead to some changes in your communication pattern. And the expression of anger must not provoke retaliation. You know, it's not, I'm going to get even with you, I'm going to get back with you, and get back at you. It's not about revenge and retaliation. It's to be cathartic, you both have to win. It has to be a win-win situation. It's not a win-lose or lose-win. There needs to be some kind of resolution. So we'll talk more about these actual strategies to accomplish some of this catharsis a little later in this presentation. So once again, anger is a normal, healthy emotion. Mismanaged anger is unhealthy. Ineffectively managed anger is dangerous. Catharsis is important, but the catharsis needs to be healthy catharsis, not just random ventilation of expressing emotion. And you need to vent specifically to the person who provoked you. You need to restore your self-esteem. You want to seek as much information and insight as you can about yourself and the situation and perhaps the other person. perhaps develop a little empathy. So that's where the journaling, the conversation, maybe the drawing comes in. Use clear language to communicate what you're feeling. Be not afraid. Many people are afraid to express anger because they're afraid they're going to hurt someone or be misunderstood. And lastly, you just got to put an end to it. The reality is, most of us don't manage our anger very well. Typically, we can think about it now when we may not be angry or aroused, and we can see all of our internal resources that we have, all of our great coping skills that we have to manage anger. But the reality is, when we're angry, we're stressed, and when we're stressed, our conscious mind goes out the door. Our ability to control our choices, somehow evaporates. So more people express mismanage anger than manage it well. And again, it's a lifelong process of learning about self, learning about your emotions, and learning about coping mechanisms. Neil Warren, who's the author of Make Anger Your Ally, has identified 4 mismanaged anger styles. So I'm going to invite you to think about yourself as we explore these styles. You might find that you do a little of all of them, depending on the situation. And that's very true. We all do a little of all of them. And then some of us have a preferred choice for mismanaging our anger, that it's our go-to choice most of the time. So I just want you to think about this. And you can think of these as hot stones. And if you think of picking up a hot stone, it burns you, and when you're burned, you're scarred, and you want to drop it. But unfortunately, when we mismanage our angers, and it's a hot stone style, unfortunately, we don't learn to drop that hot stone. We often hang on to it because we don't recognize the negative effects of that particular style. All right, so I'll go back just to reiterate here. The hot stones, the mismanaged anger styles that we'll be looking at here in the next few minutes are the somatizer, the self-punisher, the exploder, and the underhander. And those are pretty self-explanatory, but we're going to go a little bit deeper. The somatizer, you can think of that as the person or the stone which is silent but deadly. The soma means body, so we're talking about here a mismanaged anger style where the person, their anger is silent. They're the people that are never mad. They're never aroused. Everything's always okay. Well, anger is a normal, healthy response to the world around us, and that everyone is angry, and we're frequently angry. But the somatizer is going to deny their anger, but the toll the anger takes is on the human body. So these are people whose anger management style is suppressed, but the anger, which is toxic as an emotion, might then physiologically takes it out on the human body. So this is where the migraine headaches may come from. This is the place where people have hypertension. Certainly we look at that relationship with heart disease. It tends to be much more of a passive style. But the anger has to go somewhere. So when people are somatizers, they suck it up, they hold it in, they deny it works, that they deny they have it, but where's that toxic emotion going? It's eating up the physical body. So again, there are many causes for physical illnesses. There are many causes for physical disease. Anger does not cause any one of them, but anger is highly correlated with many things. So if you're someone with, a wide array of illness or a wide array of physical symptoms sometimes that don't have direct organic cause, you might explore your emotional life. The self-punisher. Now this stone is the razor stone. Think of the self-punisher, the razor. You're going to self-punish. You're going to cut yourself. You're going to hurt yourself. These are people who, they are angry. And they know that emotion, and they can label that emotion in themselves, but then they feel guilty about it. And the guilt, and if you go back to what is guilt, it's an emotion, it's an anxiety that really simply translates to mean, I am so bad I ought to be punished. So I'm angry, and that's bad, so I have to punish myself. So at an extreme, if you see the razor, You know how sharp a new razor blade is, how you can cut yourself very easily. Cutters. There are people who cut themselves. And there's a lot of psychology and psychopathology around cutting, but could there be a thread related to unresolved anger and guilt and punishing self? These are people who self-mutilate in other ways. Well, I'm going to feel guilty, it's unpleasant, I'm going to hurt myself, maybe through excessive drinking, excessive drug use. Maybe I'm going to drive dangerously through road rage. Maybe I'm going to smoke, which these are all things that in moderation might not be so bad. But when you excessively do something as a way to, that's your coping mechanism, that's your anger management style. That's the style, that's the way you're mismanaging your anger. It can become excessive. And then you get to the self-mutilation, the cutting, the razor, the hurting the self. Again, we can look at some benign things like sleeping 24/7. There are people that drop out of life by sleep. Well, why are they so tired? Well, they're angry and they don't want to deal with the emotion. So it's there, it's fatiguing, and the way they cut themselves is to sleep. And then excessive sleeping, you're not taking care of business in life, so eventually you're hurting yourself. And this one is self-explanatory, the exploder. This one's easy to see. These people erupt when they're angry. Steam comes out of their ears, comes out of their nostrils, very much like a volcano erupting. These people swear, hit, throw things, kick people. This is an easy one to see. You probably, know people who are exploders. You might have an element of explosion yourself, depending on what the situation is. This type of anger, mismanaged anger style, is the one that is most closely related to hostility and to heart disease. So we've got, physiological arousal with anger, and then we have the danger of that physiological arousal. And remember, hostility is highly related to heart disease. So the exploder would be one that, might be preempting heart disease or certainly turning on heart disease if there's predispositions that exist in their life already genetically, or they have several other poor health habits that might be related to heart disease. So the exploder, think of it as the volcano of mismanaged anger styles. Oh, and then there's the underhander. So under that calm water, there's a lot of activity. This is the passive-aggressive style. Now, these people don't get mad, they get even. This is the person who's saying, I'm angry, and I'm going to get back at you, and you're not going to know what hit you. Actually, this underhander mismanaged anger style is the one that's most common in workplace, and so you might think about where you work and think about yourself and think about the behavior of others. When you're an underhander, you just push the edges of socially acceptable. So you go to the meeting, you just come in late. You know that there should be more paper put in the copy machine because you use the last page, but you don't care. You're going to leave it for someone else. So there's this getting back at people in a socially acceptable way, but you're really pushing the edges of that. It's a very passive-aggressive form. Now, once again, these are 4 styles that have been identified, with their nice, neat little labels and boxes. No one clearly fits one label. No one clearly fits one box. We may use all of these mismanaged anger styles on occasion, or you may say, I used to be an exploder. I've learned to manage that in a different way. But when push comes to shove, sometimes I still explode. Or you might use all of them, depending on what's going on in your life, the context of what's provoking you, and other stressors that exist in your life at the time when you're experiencing the anger. This little flow chart, I don't know if you can see it very well. Yeah, you can see it. It's looking at the mismanaged anger cycle. So you have a social situation, something that's provoking anger in you. And typically it's due to some unmet expectation. And again, if you're not aware of your expectations, you don't know they're not met. But what you have is a reaction. And that reaction might be, one of your hot stones. You might say, oh, I'm not mad, but the physical body's responding. Or you might be the volcano, or you might be the razor, or you might be the, I'll get back at you, revenge person, the underhander style. Well, that reinforces our anger. So what we get is this loop. I experience this, this is where I go, this is what I do, you know, it temporarily takes care of things, and now I'm back to the drawing board and another situation happens, and I have this cycle that keeps going around in circles. You have physical symptoms, obviously, and that's your way of being in the world. What we want to do is interrupt this cycle, and we interrupt this cycle by understanding ourselves, understanding anger, and understanding what I would say are creative management strategies for anger. All unresolved anger issues become control issues. But when you think about this, I've been like living with this idea all weekend because, you know, you can see it in print, you can think about it, it can make sense to you. Control is an illusion because by staying angry, you're giving your power away. You know, typically, we can be angry over the start, you know, our car doesn't start, but car's an inanimate object. We can get over that pretty quickly. The stuff that simmers with us is usually related to some other person in our life. And when we choose or allow ourselves to be angry, we're letting that person control us. We're giving that person or that situation exactly what that situation or person might want. So, you know, don't think that unresolved anger is giving you control, because you give control away when you choose to stay angry. Well, this wouldn't be a very good informational talk if we didn't look at what to do. So, you know, we're just scratched the surface of what anger is, and we looked at mismanaged gender differences, and now we looked at some mismanaged angerman styles. This is the takeaway part, you know. 12-step programs, 12 steps, whether it's the Artist's Way and the 12-week program for greater spirituality and creativity, or it's Alcoholics Anonymous or Narcotics Anonymous 12-step programs. There are 12 steps to creative anger management. The 12 steps, however, they're not isolated pieces. They're coping strategies, they're suggestions, they're ideas. You would be failing yourself not to have as many of these as you can in your repertoire. Different situations call for different coping mechanisms. If you only have one way to fix a problem, and if that one way doesn't work, then you still have the problem. So with creative anger management techniques, there's a wide variety of things one can do. One should have an awareness of as many possibilities that are available, and use what works when it works. Don't try to use the same tool to fix every problem. You need a variety of tools to fix a variety of problems that come in the form of anger. So several strategies, see if any of these are helpful to you. Number one, you should know your anger style. And on our GRCC psychology webpage, I have posted a self-report inventory for anger management style, as well as a document which talks about, gives you the information that I just briefly talked about in terms of what a somatizer looks like or what the exploder looks like. And there's also another self-assessment there about just anger in general. How angry are you? And I always say to students, when you take these assessments, you can think, oh, I'm not angry, or I know everything there is to know about my anger. And that might be true, but I always like to take assessments because I think they broaden our perspective on all of the qualities and elements that do make up something like anger. So, you know, you might think you're not angry, but when you read the 50 possibilities, you're like, oh, I didn't know this was anger. Oh, I didn't know this was anger. So again, know your anger style, know what are your trigger points, know how you respond. Information is power. The more information you can have about yourself, the better off you are. Emotional literacy, educated person. And again, if not just for you, for others. You may have people in your life who are angry. I know I had a student who said, I want my friend to come to this presentation because she's so angry. So please pass that along. Secondly, learn to monitor your anger. So you want to keep track of your anger. What triggers your anger? When are you angry? You tend to be more angry in the morning before you had your first cup of coffee. Are you angry late at night when you're extremely fatigued? Is anger only at work? Is it only in response to a certain person? Are there predictable trends? So when you start monitoring your anger, when you think about your emotions, when you think about your thinking, you might see some patterns. You might get some insight into what's going on with you, when it's going on with you, which may lead to giving you some answers to why you're feeling that way. Little cartoon. You need to channel your anger into something more constructive, like rage. It's like, all right, well, you want me to manage my anger a little bit more deeply? So that was a joke. De-escalate your anger. You can go online and type in anger management techniques. I probably looked at 15 different texts around anger in preparing this little talk. The old count to 10, it's sage wisdom, it's advice. Your mom might have said, just count to 10. But de-escalating, you want to step down. You want to reduce your anger response. You want to respond instead of act. The word responsibility, talks about responding. You have a responsibility as you own. You have choice. Reactions are like knee-jerk reflexes. They're immediate. Usually a reflex doesn't include thought, right? So when you de-escalate your anger, you have to recognize that it's there and then count to 10 so that it gives you a chance to respond as opposed to react. Gives you a chance to think about your thinking. Take a deep breath. Just calm down that whole cardiovascular system. That whole sympathetic nervous system that's turned on with arousal, it's ready to go at the other person's jugular. Take a breath. Count to 10. Chill. You cannot be aroused and relaxed at the same point of time. And breathing is the doorway to relaxation. So just taking a deep breath lowers your heart rate, reduces blood pressure. It tells your body, oh, I need to chill a bit. It also buys you a little time. Get a drink of water. Take a walk. Leave the room. Take a time out. But with managing anger, taking a time out is a really good idea, but you've got to take a time in. So you walk away from it to get yourself back together, to chill. You may say, I am so angry, I need to take a break right now. I will be back where I am in a more sane place where I can respond instead of react, and we can have a healthy catharsis. Your friends will love it if you start using all the psychology jargon. Learn to outthink your anger. How can I resolve this feeling in a constructive way? I have this feeling. It exists. I know it's normal and healthy. What am I going to do with it? How am I going to manage it? Anger has energy. How am I going to use this energy that anger has given me in a constructive way? A way that might lead to some effective problem solving, some kind of change. Remember, we said anger has a survival value to it. It's led to change. Our ancestors did a good job making changes so we could survive. So learn to outthink your anger. Make it work for you. Take that energy and harness it to make some kind of change. Thought this was sort of cute. Dog. A lot of anger I expressed in the past was inappropriate, and I want to apologize. I'm in anger therapy now, but I've only just begun, so make it snappy. So, I recognize I'm angry. I recognize I got to manage it. I'm not really far along in the process yet, so don't stretch my limits. And then even birds are angry. All right, get comfortable with all your feelings. People are most vulnerable when they're feeling stress, and stress-related illness comes from the dangers of anger. And that comes from the inability to understand, express all emotions: happiness, joy, love, sorrow, disappointment, being disgruntled, being upset. Those are all real emotions. And anger is like acid. And acid needs to be neutralized or it's toxic. So what you want to do is just see your anger as this very toxic emotion that needs to be neutralized. And you need to do that. And it's okay to do that. Lastly, not lastly, 5 and 6, plan ahead. And I love this one. We know that there are lots of situations in our lives which are going to trigger an anger response. We got the holidays coming up. You might be spending time with a lot of extended family, people you don't see in a routine, routinely. You may be rejoining members of your family that they push your buttons. If you know what your buttons are, and you know that there is the likelihood that someone's going to push that button, plan ahead so that you already go, all right, I know that button's there, and I know so-and-so's going to activate it, but I know how I'm going to manage it. I know how I'm going to respond. I'm going to have that great retort that I always think of after the fact. I'm going to have it ready. I'm going to have it in my pocket. Or I'm going to avoid certain situations that I know trigger something. So the more you know yourself, the more you know your triggers. The more you know your triggers, the more you can plan ahead. You can either plan ahead as a way to mediate things that we can't escape because you have to go to work, you have to meet with family. So there are things that you can choose to stay away from, but you also need to know how you're going to handle things before they happen. And that is very real. There are people in our lives that push our buttons. There are situations in our lives that push our buttons. So plan ahead. Why give that situation or person that much control over you? Why get aroused unnecessarily? I love this cartoon. Right now I'm working on my anger management through meditation, and limiting visits from my pain in the butt neighbor. That neighbor is a plan ahead. They push my button, so I'm limiting that. I see that neighbor coming, I shut the door. I don't answer the phone. I'm not home. And then I'm able to manage my anger. It's important to develop a strong support system. You need friends you can confide in. You need friends that are a sounding board. That person should not be an ally, because we talked about that in Unhealthy Catharsis. That ally who is angry also is only going to reinforce your emotional response. What you need is that other person that you can say, oh, I was so upset today, or this made me so angry, or I am so frustrated with this situation, and have that person just be the objective listener. They're a sounding board. Typically, those people can do nothing but listen to you. Maybe offer a few insights, telling you what you might suggest, what you're not paying attention to. But frequently, and I'm sure you've all found this yourselves, that if you do have that objective other in your life that you can share things with, your own talking about a situation allows you to hear yourself think. It allows you to hear yourself process. And by listening to yourself, it offers you insight about a situation. It offers you insight about what's going on with you. Maybe that objective other, that support system, is going to say, I unconditionally love you. I unconditionally accept you. You're angry. It's okay. How can you manage that differently? Offer some insights if they're a good objective friend. So you don't want a friend that's going to get mad with you. That's not helpful. And then realistic expectations. I've told my students this a couple times, but I'm a Pollyanna kind of person with rose-colored glasses, and I've gone through life expecting all sorts of wonderful things. And life has been pretty darn good, but I do have a little saying in my kitchen that says, lower expectations to avoid disappointment, because disappointment leads to anger. And a lot of times, we talked about anger coming from unmet expectations. Are your expectations realistic? You are not perfect. I am not perfect. No one's perfect. Other people are not perfect. So, part of this anger management strategy is think about your expectations. Were your expectations appropriate? Were they excessive? Were they appropriate and excessive for you, or are they appropriate and excessive for the other person? So what you want to have is realistic expectation, not too low or too high, but realistic. And that's information. And again, you need to reflect on that to see where your expectations are at. Learned problem-solving techniques. Don't paint yourself into a corner. Now, 1 or 2 coping mechanisms, and that's your only management, it's not enough. Creative problem solving is suggesting that you have a wide repertoire of coping techniques as to, every problem has a solution. And solutions lie with the possibility of several remedies. So what you want to do is have as many possibilities, use as many creative strategies as you can as a way to get insight or gain a solution to your anger situation or to the problem that's provoking anger with another individual or with a situation. Use your imagination and your creativity. Sometimes there's things that you can change. And so we have instrumental, problem-focused, we can fix things. Sometimes the only thing that we can manage is ourselves. And so it's important to know what can be changed, what can't be changed, and to accept what can't be changed and move on. Stay in shape, and this doesn't just mean physical shape. Exercise is good. Exercise releases endorphins. Exercise, strengthens the cardiovascular system. Exercise is a good catharsis. It gets rid of some emotions that you're feeling. But we're talking here about staying in shape, staying in balance in mind, body, and spirit. So, eat well, get enough sleep, exercise. But also importantly around the spirit is spend some time in solitude. Spend some time alone. Spend some time thinking about your thinking. Be not afraid to dive deep into your emotional landscape and identify those feelings that you're having. Ask yourself, why am I having that feeling? Could I respond differently? Where is that feeling coming from? How is that contributing to anger? So that staying in shape is really about staying in balance and taking care of yourself. Take care of the body, take care of the mind, and take care of the spirit. And that is a great resource relative to anger management. And then we don't want to forget the role of humor. Sometimes laughing is all you can do. And laughing is, good for the body, it's good for the mind, and it's good for the soul. Turn complaints into requests. Pessimists whine and moan, complain. We're victims. Everything that's wrong. But if you think of anger as energy, and anger is leading to change, and anger being a survival, emotion of survival, what you want to do is turn your complaint into a request. You're at the library and you're trying to study, and the people at the next table are laughing and talking and carrying on. You could or talking on their phone. I just saw this happen at the library the other day. You can whine, moan, and complain. Oh, poor me, nothing goes right, and you're mad. Or you can turn your complaint into a request and just walk over to the people and say, hey, this is the library, this is the quiet area. Could I please ask you to not talk on your phone here? You're disrupting my attention span, or you're interfering with my space. So think about how many times we have an anger response, or we're aroused in some kind of way. We go to the complaining, the whining, and the moaning, but we don't go to the next step, which is make a request, seek a change. Again, there are certain things that cannot be changed, and you need to use the prayer of serenity, which is having the insight, the serenity prayer, which is saying, God, give me the insight to know what I can change and the courage to change, and also know what I can't change and the courage to just accept that and to move on. And lastly, and probably the most difficult, is the art of forgiveness. You have to learn to resolve issues that have caused pain, sadness, disappointment, frustration. And you have to learn how to forgive. And in the world of forgiveness, or the psychology of forgiveness, forgiveness is a very difficult process. And somehow we think we're losing or we're letting go of something. But when we forgive, we're forgiving for ourselves. And there's things, you know, and again, it's all dependent on the depth or the significance of the event that's made you angry. But you should make a statute of limitations on how long you're going to be angry. You know, give yourself permission to say, I'm angry, this has made me angry, or I am upset. I'm going to put a statute of limitations on it. If it was a small thing in the spectrum of life, give yourself a week, maybe a day, a week, 3 months. But there has to be a point where you say, enough is enough. I'm closing the door on this. I'm putting a period at the end of this sentence. I'm turning the page, and it's over. So it's the art of forgiveness is very difficult. It takes a lot of discipline. It takes a lot of courage to forgive. But in the act of forgiveness, you're actually freeing yourself up. You're no longer holding on to that. And again, it's okay to be angry, but don't be angry forever. So again, realistically, how long does this event warrant anger? Is there a point where I'm going to say enough and move on to the next place? I just thought this was cute. Therapist talking to a pig. Let's see if we can identify some of the anger triggers in your life. You mentioned something about a large wolf periodically showing up who attempts to blow your house down from the Three Little Pigs. All right, strategies for well-managed anger. So this is the healthy flow chart. You know, this is where you have a conflict situation. You have a situation that provokes anger. It's important to stop and think, what were my expectations? What expectations did I have that were unmet? Were they realistic? Recognize your feelings and validate them. That is very important. Label them, identify them. Spend some time thinking about your feelings, thinking about your thinking. Give yourself permission to be angry. Don't run away from it. Oh, I can't be mad. I'm not supposed to be mad. I'm so bad because I'm angry. It's okay to be angry. Say, I'm having a normal response to a situation that's abnormal. This is information for me. Evaluate the situation. You know, am I having irrational thoughts? Do I have all the information I need? You know, gain some more insight about yourself or the situation. Gain insight about your expectations. And then be proactive, not reactive. Reactive is reflexive, knee-jerk response. Typically causes problems for us. Proactive is we make a decision. We take responsibility for our responses. So if you know your anger style, don't go there. Don't go, oh, I know I'm a somatizer, so I'm just going to suck it up and say I'm not angry. Or I'm going to explode, and I'm going to have, you know, this big fire around me. Drop that stone if you did pick it up. Go, I know I have a tendency to go there. Behavior change, any kind of change in managing emotion doesn't happen overnight. It's going to take lots and lots of practice. Don't forget, these habits are deeply ingrained in us. You know, they started very early in our life. Many of us have mismanaged anger styles because we weren't educated as how to manage our anger. We didn't have good role models for managing our anger. You know, social learning theory says we imitate our models, and our models showed us how we should handle emotion. And if our model was an exploder, then we think, oh, that's how I handle emotion or how I handle anger. If my model has never been angry, then that must mean that I don't get angry. So I'm going to model that. So, you know, ask yourself, where did it come from? And how, if you're reworking a style, your knee-jerk reflex is to go back to what is tried and true for you. If you recognize it, you can drop that stone. And visualizing it as an actual stone is often helpful. Use auditory, visual, kinesthetic strategies to help re-script your thinking, your feeling, your negative self-talk, and then seek problem resolution. So this cartoon, 12 Angry Men, and one guy who's obviously done a lot of inner work has those strategies for anger management and has used them well, and obviously is not the angry guy. So in summary, anger is not dangerous. It is a normal emotion and should be recognized and managed. You can learn to change anger-generated thoughts and feelings into constructive energy that works towards peaceful resolution. So, you know, the title of this talk is Anger Was One Letter Away from Danger. So you take away the D from anger, all you got is anger. The D is the ineffectively managed, the unresolved anger, the mismanaged anger styles, the lack of awareness. That's what puts the D into anger and makes it dangerous, erupting into road rage or domestic violence or health problems. So everyone in here has the potential to be angry. Everyone in here has experienced anger. And all of us have the potential and certainly the insight to learn about that emotion a little bit more deeply and learn how to manage it more effectively. So that is the conclusion. If there are any questions, I'd be happy to entertain them now, or any thoughts that you might have. Yes? Well, part of it is, number one, you know what your style is. You're an exploder. Secondly, going back to the strategies for anger management, I would look at, think about what are the triggers that lead me to that. I would anticipate that as being my knee-jerk reflex. When I get frustrated, I explode. So what I need to do is identify, what does frustration feel like? What are the aspects of frustration? And then what could I do differently? So plan ahead, practice ahead. Practice when you're not emotionally aroused and when you're not in that stressful situation. And then when it happens, stop, think, try a new behavior, and then evaluate afterwards and give yourself some positive feedback saying, oh, this time I didn't do X, but I was more successful because I did Y. What can I learn from that? I'd also journal about that so that I could reinforce the positive in my new behavior. Yes? Yeah, I might have missed that because, men actually are socialized to express anger in sports. Okay, sure. The question was, is using sports as a good vehicle? Is that what you meant, hon? Okay. I think the good piece is you know what you're feeling, you know what your motivation is to work out. It's not just random catharsis. So if you are venting your anger and frustration out on the punching bag, but you're processing why you're angry, what's making you angry, and you're keeping it isolated and it leads to some sort of resolution, I think that would be okay. If it's your only way of managing anger, then that's not okay. But it sounds like you're pretty selective about that because you can't always have a punching bag, and that would be the issue that I would be kind of concerned about, having a variety of coping strategies. What I didn't mention is that men are often, again, socialized to find sports as a way to ventilate and to express anger. If you think about football and hockey and soccer, there's a lot of violence and aggression in those sports. And we actually reward that. That's to be positive. So in your case, if you know what you're feeling, you can identify it, you take it to the place where you are processing and leaving with some kind of resolution, that would be okay. The danger would be if it's your only way. Because, think about the metaphor of the punching bag. A punching bag's not available and you don't have a way to manage your anger, might you take it out on another person who might become a replacement for the punching bag? Does that answer your question? Okay. Anything else? Yeah. Well, that's a complex question. I think the question was, you are able to confront the person who provoked you, and you use good communication skills with I statements, but then the person turns that around and somehow... Okay, so they turn the situation around to make it sort of your fault that you're angry. So then you leave feeling angry and guilty, or excuse me, you leave feeling guilty, so you go to that, maybe the self-punisher place. I think you can anticipate that that might happen and maybe plan ahead as to how to circumvent that. So a lot of times in communication, people are pretty good at manipulating situations. And if you can anticipate that as possibly happening, especially if it happens with one or two people, is it pretty consistent with a few people or situations? You can identify those triggers before they happen, because a lot of times people are just really good at talking and manipulating, and you want to say, wait a minute, we're getting off the subject here. Wait a minute, you are changing the story, and keep restating your perspective. And you can agree to disagree. That's healthy resolution too. Part of it is it's okay that we don't agree, but you did have your side of the story heard and you were justified. But I would go down the route of anticipating that happening, especially if it's with certain people, and then start thinking about how can I manage that? Because I know they're going to change this around and it's going to end up being on me. And then when you're experiencing the guilt, you recognize that it's guilt and it's irrational guilt, and that it's not your problem. So again, self-talk, self-statements around that. Okay. Did you all hear that, or do I need to repeat that? Okay. Your question was, I was provoked and had a conversation. I'm going to edit this a bit. And then I leave the situation realizing that I really was part of this, and then I have self-anger because of the guilt that I'm experiencing around, I went through the process of resolution and realized that I was really part of this unpleasant event. I own it. Now I feel guilty and I have self-anger. The hardest person to forgive is yourself. Expectation, unrealistic. You're not perfect. You screw up on a regular basis. We all do. So be honest with yourself. And then the forgiveness process means you go back in forgiving yourself. It might mean that you have a conversation now at another time with the person or about the situation and say, hey, you helped me see this in a slightly different way. I realized, and again, it's like learning. The more we have that insight to our way of being in the world, the more we can learn about ourselves. And then it's not beat ourselves up for what we did in the past, but take what we learned from the past so we don't repeat that in the future. But the hardest person to forgive is ourselves, and we're often the hardest on ourselves. And self-anger is not a good emotion. It's not a good place to go. Takes away from self-esteem, self-concept. You beat yourself up. You need to stop that. We need to stop that kind of internal dialogue. Anything else? Well, I thank you for coming. I hope that this will alleviate a little of the toxic emotion in you. My students, I'll see you guys on Wednesday. Thank you for coming. My 201 students, you have a test and then your little paper on this talk. I'll see you on Wednesday. So thank you.